Oh, I am so glad that you found your way back to the Yoga and Black podcast. But if you're new to the show, welcome. The show is all about sharing the stories of Black yoga and holistic wellness providers all around the world. And the goal is to bring more community awareness to the Black folks that not only practice yoga, but teach it too, to show our community that we too participate in these practices to help us heal and lead fuller lives. So, without me talking anymore, please, please, I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. All right, welcome back to the Yoga in Black podcast, everyone. My name is Tarani, but I don't know, I'm feeling a little Mr. Rogers today with this sweater on because I sure put the tank top on and was like, we're good. It's not that bad. It's a little chilly in Texas. So anyway, I don't know, I'm digging it though. I'm digging it. But this week I am joined by Adrianne Lind, and I am so excited to get to know a fellow podcast host, host of the show Yoga Saved Me, based in Sweden, but a DC native. So take it away, Adrianne. I want to know all about you.
First of all, I was gonna say you look adorable and
Thank you.
totally adorable. And I have the scarf wrapped a couple times around my neck. We surrendered into fall, right?
Look.
Even in Texas, maybe. So yeah, I am so thrilled to be here. Yoga in Black. I mean, who doesn't want to be on the Yoga in Black podcast? Yes, thanks for mentioning my podcast. Yoga Saved Me. And it's the reason why I'm in yoga in the first place. I discovered yoga and rediscovered, I should say, it through trauma. So that's why I titled the podcast Yoga Saved Me, because I do, not to be dramatic or anything, but I do look at yoga as a tool that has saved me when I've had physical trauma, when I've had sexual trauma, emotional trauma, PTS that comes with that, and grief. So that's why yoga is a blessing to me. I consider it a gift to be able to share it with other people, through the podcast as a teacher, and when I get to practice with other people as well. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. You know what I'm
You
talking
definitely are, because I was going to say, girl, same. Like, all the same reason.
Exactly. And it's such a beautiful universal thing that's accessible literally to everyone that, not to make it sound like it's the answer to everything or it's like a cult or something, but it's really the more at least I spend time with yoga, either as a practitioner or, as educating myself or as a teacher. It's like everything is all in us anyway. Everything that you learn that you're doing that's why I say it's for everyone. It's accessible for humans. We've seen animals do it too, right? You see these YouTube videos with their people with their dogs.
Yeah.
Doing yoga with them. But so it's within us. So that's why it's so simple and accessible, really, even when people try to put barriers up. I was telling you that I am on day, you see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, I don't
Did
think
you
it
say
goes into
4?
Tuesday. Yeah, day 4, because I'm thinking it doesn't go into Tuesday of an adaptive yoga certification. And one of the things I talk about, it's the difference between adaptability and accessibility. And
Nice.
right, so yoga is supposed to be like, if we go back to the sutras, right, accessible for everyone. So adaptability is part of that as a teacher, being able to, hold up your end of the bargain, as far as yoga being accessible to everyone. But there's, and this is one thing I love about your podcast, right? What have you learned about, look at me, here's the podcaster host coming out of me. What have you learned
I
over the
love it.
years about,
Yes.
what have you learned over the years about the accessibility to yoga to our community, to Black folks, Black women, the Black community? What has been your experience? What have you learned about that over all these years with the podcast?
just how much work we have to do to really open the doors, still,
Still.
because there have been countless stories told of just I didn't know that it existed or existed for us. Like when I did or did know of it or was aware of it, it didn't seem like something that we could do. And knowing that that's still something that people say to this day, because I was saying that 20 some years ago. And now here I am hosting a yoga podcast. Like, would have never thought that at all from the things that I knew about it before. But having had access to more information and the experience, I'm like, okay, let's broaden this a little bit more, which is why this exists now. But there's still so much more work we need to do to help people understand this is not a white people thing. This is not a flexibility Olympics. This is something that can help heal you through things you don't even realize you're suffering from.
Ooh,
And
you know,
exactly.
it's interesting that you say that because when I went to Discover Yoga, it was in '96, and it was after I had been dropped out of a 4-story window, like in suburban Paris. I was trying to get out of the situation. I didn't want to be raped a third time in my life, right? And it was I couldn't go out the door. The owner was out the window. I ended up getting dropped. But when I got back to was living in London at the time. By the time I got moved back to the States and lived on Capitol Hill-ish, I was really lucky to find this place, and it's still there today, St. Mark's Yoga Center. And my first introduction was Shivananda Yoga. I just instinctively knew that these yogas, that and a chiropractor. Because was just
Mm.
moving back from Europe. I don't even think I had insurance. So like a regular doctor, but I was like, I knew a chiropractor because my back was F star CKED,
Look, say whatever you want to on this. Like, there's no
I
censoring
know you
here.
said
Say
you must
whatever
have
you want
your
to.
delivery, and you can call. But see, that's what you get from being in your mama's house. I'm like, I'm in my mama's house. I was like,
I feel you. Yeah, that makes sense. That automatic filter just comes on as soon as you step through the door. It's like a whole portal to, oh, I don't know curse words anymore.
stepping back in time to like you was a teenager. But so I knew a chiropractor in yoga, and I was so lucky. St. Mark's Yoga Center, and this was in '96, and I can remember my pass was unlimited for a month. I want to say $50 back then, which was super cheap, right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially because they had yoga. I don't want to say 7 days a week, but I know I was up there at least 5, and
Mm.
it was Shivananda yoga. That's all I remember. It was my first introduction to yoga. So saying Shivananda yoga didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know half of Ashtanga to Vinny to Yin to all
Yeah.
Let's go through them all. There's so many. I didn't know anything. I just knew that at the end of the movement part of the practice, that we would lay down and I would go off into this wonderful place. Like I would be gone,
Mm.
like out of body, gone, like gone.
Hmm.
I just called it like getting transported to this wonderful place. And I can remember the first time, you can hear them calling you back in the room and you're like, no, you don't want to come back into the room. That was my first, I feel so lucky that happened to me the very first time I got on a yoga mat. And I will never forget this yoga teacher. I can see her in my mind. I don't know her name. And of course, she's not still there. She wouldn't still be there. But once I remembered the name of this yoga center, like once I started getting training, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, it was Shivananda. What is that? Looking it up. I remember the center and I saw that it's still there. So I even have taken some online classes with them because we made it through the pandemic. Everybody that's on this side of the pandemic has done some shifting. So even that St. Mark's Yoga Center that was, based on, they were doing, and now they're hybrid. I got to email them from the other day, new hybrid option on Wednesday, so it's not going anywhere, which is fantastic for me seeing how I live in Sweden. And when you have connections with yoga teachers or classes in the US, you're like, thank God I can
Yeah.
take them online. I can't always be there in person. But to say, yeah, so after so that was my first traumatic experience, but that was also, why can't I think of the word? It was a physical, it was like being in a car accident. So,
Mm-hmm.
what was that? That's a traumatic experience, but I'm trying to, body trauma? Is it body trauma?
I guess, yeah.
But you know what I mean?
But
It
the
was
body does hold trauma in, not only just like if, there's physical injury that's happening, but
physical
still like
injuries. That's
stuff
what,
just gets, yeah, held
yeah.
there.
Stuff just gets held there. And I didn't realize that, but I knew I could barely walk. So I needed the yoga and the
Mm,
chiropractor for the walking
yeah.
part. And then also, I learned um, some poses or asanas to use for painful periods because that used to be, I don't want to say that was my jam,
Mm-hmm.
but that used to be a part of my experience, like really painful periods. So so my practice went from a very intense practice based out of need from physical and emotional trauma to
Mm-hmm.
using tools to manage pain because I would have this monthly intense pain with my period, coupled with the pain that I had with the fall. So yoga became a way of, a tool for managing pain. I don't know if I realized it was a tool for
Mm-hmm.
managing trauma at the time because I don't think I really realized that until the grief. Because I don't believe it was until I was on a yoga mat during the grieving period that I would just burst into tears. I don't ever remember doing that
Yeah.
in the St. Mark's Yoga Center, because that's something you would remember in a public place, bursting out in tears in a yoga class. I was
Oh,
just, I was
yeah.
gone on yoga nidra. And that was the thing. It was always like 15, 20 minutes of yoga nidra. Woo, but I didn't even know that was yoga nidra, or she just incorporated that into it until I took
Mm-hmm.
yoga teacher training. I was like, that's what that's called. So I had to get certification in
Yeah.
yoga nidra. Does yoga nidra do
I
anything
love
for
yoga
you?
nidra.
You do?
Oh, it's all of those same things. As I, even as an instructor, I prefer to incorporate at least a 10-minute shavasana so that maybe we can get into a nidra a bit,
Me too.
but not always. So my goal is to get them at least 10 minutes, at minimum 8, depending
Yeah.
on timing and everything like that.
Yeah.
But oh, the way that I generally end up transported to the same place, and it's my
Mm.
favorite place from my hometown, overlooking the
Oh,
Mississippi River,
okay.
with my dog, who's
Oh,
no longer with us. But it was this great day that we had just sitting on a bench. The sun was shining, the
ah,
grass was beautiful, the water was just muddy and gross, but it just was, sparkling still in its
wow.
muddiness.
This is so nice.
Yes, and it's just such a warm and inviting space that I always tend to go back to.
That sounds like
And
your
if it's
inner
not that,
resource. Well, this
mhm.
is one of your inner resources, huh?
Oh yeah.
If you go
It's
repeatedly.
definitely, yeah.
I find that fascinating because I don't have that yet, a place that I go to repeatedly. That's wonderful because that's a place, yeah, your inner resource that you can bring that up. You can go there anytime you need to get that wonderful
Mhm.
feeling. Look at the look on your face now. You're lucky. You're fortunate. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's something that I just kind of stumbled upon too, because not understanding what yoga really provided until there was that one class that changed it all. I ended
Mhm.
up finding it there, and then I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I didn't think anything else of it, but I knew that I wanted to go back to practice, or at least wanted to keep practicing yoga more. So the more I started practicing and the more time that I was able to spend having like a real shavasana, like I kept noticing, I'm like, it's the same place every time. Every
Wow.
time. And then other times it'll just be kind of like, what do I want to call it? What do they call it? Astral projection, where it's like you're
Mhm,
able to like see
mhm,
yourself like where you
mhm.
are. So it's not necessarily like I'm still attached to my body anymore. I'm just kind of looking down at myself in this sleep state, if you will, but able to travel and just kind of do things. It's an interesting experience, and I've never actually talked about that with anybody. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to open up about that.
You're welcome, because that's what hooked me on it. And then when I
Mm-hmm.
look back on it, 3-part breath,
Oof, yes.
which so, and then I think, yeah, I found out it was a part of hatha yoga, which still didn't mean anything to me. And then because I was like, okay, I'm like, okay, whatever. I was just from the place of acceptance, if that's what you say.
Right.
I wasn't from the place where I had to go look it up and see what that meant. It was just like, okay, it's like whatever. Not with disinterest, but just with acceptance. Okay, it's part of
Right.
it's part of hatha yoga. Okay. Hatha yoga is obviously part of yoga. I don't know. And then I found out recently, maybe during this adaptive course, that like restorative, or someone had a question, like restorative and yin are relatively new branches of yoga, and compared to, and it's like, yeah, not,
Mm-hmm.
but restorative has hatha roots.
Yeah.
Because someone was asking, how they related to the 8 limbs or something. So that's good to know. Whereas yin does not. It does not have hatha roots, which is neither good or bad. But just so that you
Right.
understand, because sometimes you do have students that do know the terminology, or they train this way and aren't
Mm-hmm.
used to, they expect a certain experience. But what I realized, or what I call hatha, at least how one class this weekend that I took as part of the course, is what I would call gentle yoga. Now,
Yeah.
is that your experience compared to vinyasa? Because I think that was the question. Someone was like, "Well, what's the difference between hatha and vinyasa?" So the teacher said, "Well, wait till after the class. Wait till after we do the hatha class, because that was like part of the pre-journal. Like the pre-questions. What are the difference? How can you transition without chaturanga? Blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
So, so after we did the class that she led, I was like, "Oh, that's what I would call gentle yoga." So it just, to me, it was like, okay, I guess I've been doing hatha all this time whenever I
Mm-hmm.
teach a gentle yoga class, and never really. So just to say, I don't know the labels, but I don't want to be one of these teachers when somebody asks me something and it's just should be such a basic question that you should know the answer. But
And I think it's really they're used, some of these terms are used kind of interchangeably sometimes.
they
So
are.
like when when folks will mention gentle yoga, I generally tend to know that they're likely talking about hatha in a form, because hatha
Mhm.
can be something that is really difficult for folks because of
Yeah,
how in tune to alignment it is, and you're holding that pose for quite a long time to get into the proper alignment and then breathe in it. So it's it, I,
it can be difficult.
gentle yoga is such a hard term for me to use because it's so
Well,
subjective that it's like uh, something could be gentle to someone that's technically difficult for them,
that is true
or
for
for another
sure.
person.
And,
Yeah.
and one of the people in class said, "Well, I can." She's like, "I teach hatha." She said, "And my classes aren't easy." She said, "It wasn't anything like this one." And blah blah blah. So, which is great, but because again, to me, I don't want to say I don't care or whatever, or wasn't, but I was just like, okay, that's just another way to identify the class that I teach. But I
Yeah.
also teach because one of my certifications and one of the organizations that helped me so much when I was going through my grieving was Veterans Yoga Project. And they're a nonprofit
Ooh.
organization that their main mission is to bring mindful resistance, um, trauma recovery tools to veterans,
Mm-hmm.
the veterans community, military community, active duty, first responders, and even caregivers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and particularly well versed in how well Yoga Nidra works for PTS, and we don't even say PTSD. When we write it down, we put the D in parentheses because we don't think it's a disorder, but the natural reaction to what the body has experienced. You know what I'm saying? It's not a disorder.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
have, that was an actual reaction to the trauma that you experienced, right? So it's not a disorder. So PTS, but it's real, and we know it's real. And so, there's tons of scientific research how, and Richard Miller's done this with the iRest in particular, who helps veterans with
Hmm.
PTS, that even if they can't get sleep, they can get rest. And
Yes.
which is, because they weren't getting any rest at all before.
Right.
So they offer dozens of online courses and in person across the country for free, no cost to veterans, no cost to users. So because I'm a daughter and wife of veterans,
Yes.
I can have access. So when
Nice.
so I practiced so much with them. They went so much to me. So then I got certified to teach with them. They have their special mindful resistance trauma recovery certification that they want you to take, right?
Yeah. That makes sense because that's a special group of folks that you're working with that have special circumstances and they need to be catered to. So that makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. And they even have, I've been in online classes where, is a double amputee in a chair, in a wheelchair, like that
Mhm.
will be demoing with the instructor. Because a lot of instructors are vets.
Yeah.
The majority, I should say, are vets, or people with brain traumatic injuries. You
Mhm.
know, so part of the training is, yeah, it's definitely trauma informed, but goes beyond that, so that you're sensitive to particular
Right.
populations that, you know, be, with these injuries that happen a lot to our military. God, we ask so much for our military. So, teach with them online. They have online classes. Teach with them online. And that's one way for me to give back because they were there. Like unlimited. I would take like 5 classes on Wednesdays. They'd be like a class at 7, a class at 9, 10:30, like maybe at 12:30, at 7, and then take a nidra or whatever. There would be days I'm like, it would just be like non. But that was me going through, like when I was going through horrible grief, like pulling out my hair, rash, all these kind of things. So I did crying
Yeah.
then, but I don't, but then you know what? When all of this stuff is coming out, it's probably stuff I held back from, 1996 as well.
Exactly. Like I mentioned, all stuff that you didn't even realize that you were holding on to.
Stuff that you don't even realize that you're holding on to, and you do
Yeah.
feel lighter from it. So that was, um, I think it was during that period when I was taking classes a lot of time, multiple times a day, several days a week, that, you know, maybe having a tech issue or I couldn't get on or the class didn't launch. And, I would just be like in tears, like, oh my God. And then I was like, I got to learn how to be a yoga teacher. I have to learn how to be a yoga teacher. So when I need to get on the yoga mat, I can do this for myself. So that's why I got my
Yeah.
certification because of that, never thinking that I would teach, but for my own selfish um, needs. Yeah, selfish needs. Why hesitate to say that? So that, and every other
And I
certification.
would even strike the word selfish from it just for your needs. Yeah.
But and you know what? And that
Hmm.
might even be what's the word? Double. What's it when you say two words that mean the same thing? Because isn't a need by nature selfish? I mean, if you're and the selfish isn't by definition a bad word.
I guess.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it depends.
Hmm.
But at least the mindset I'm putting with it, it's like you know, um, and every certification I've taken since that 200. So like trauma informed, for
Hmm.
grief, depression, yoga nidra, yin yoga, restorative. Just did the adaptive because I want to be able to do it with my mother, in older populations. Um, Subtle
Yeah.
bodies, because still knowing, and I'm in the meditation and a somatic healing as well. But all of that just for me to deal with myself. And then you know how you get to that point where you learn where you're really the ultimate goal is like to be yoga off the mat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
all of those things, and I had I had some. Uh, it's has it happened to you? Are you in tune with your gut, like your instincts? You know when you don't listen. Does it go off the rails for you?
I'll say it does. My ability to listen and pay attention needs to be better. I
Mhm,
can I notice it, but I write it off.
mhm.
And then we'll later be like, well, you were being warned before, or at least informed before, you just didn't
Exactly.
listen. But
Exactly.
yeah,
So
and
that's
I'm making it a mission this year to listen to that more.
okay to be more in tune to that
Mhm.
information that you're getting and processing it. Maybe because, like you said before,
Yeah.
well, that's definitely very true for me, and mine is very clear. Like I know right away. So, but also what I'm learning is that when I don't live like my 8 limbs every day, that it goes off
Mhm.
the rails
Oh
for me.
yeah.
And I did because where I got my yoga teacher certification is with my vinyasa practice. They're based in Austin, brick and mortar, but they have
Yeah.
online as well. So they also have a 2-year yoga therapy certification. I am not in that.
Nice.
I am not in that. But they have, I know it's intense, right? But they have what they do offer is, what is it? Was it 6 sessions with a student in training? So they're far,
Okay.
they're through their, what is it, practicum, maybe, like for their practicum, because I want to say they're almost through their training, but they're to the
Yeah.
point where they can work with clients.
Mhm.
You as a
Yeah, that's usually
student,
called a practicum.
yeah. So as a student myself, I can have 6 sessions with them, or you can have sessions that I think are like $50 a session with former students who are certified, which is still reasonable, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Very.
right. That's very reasonable. So I remember one of my sessions was, how you live in the 8 limbs. That might have been the first thing she asked me, or came up in the first session when I think about it. So I went through and I wrote it all out and distilled it for me, like what that means for me. Like I will do everything with um I'm thinking of the Swedish word with happiness and enthusiasm. Like if I'm going to do something, all of my words are going to be loving and kind. All of my physical touch is going to be loving and kind.
Mhm.
For the different, I can't tell you the Sanskrit word that it relates to, but I did all of that, and it was so good that it was, I was reading them every day. Because meditation is part of my and breath work, pranayama, that's part of my daily practice. Asana is part of my daily practice. What is asana? Number 6 in the limbs, or 5, or whatever. So, I was having all of
Can't
that.
remember.
And when I let that go off the rails, when I let that slack, things went off the rails. I could see that. When I wasn't hitting the mat, and that's the living it off the part, right? Off the mat part.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't hitting the mat, doing the on the mat work, same, because it's like hand in hand. You're not doing one and not doing the other. You know.
Oh, trust. I believe you 100% because my experience on that was a slightly different where I was way more focused on asana and
Hmm.
not the rest. And I needed to take a substantial break, or at least change the amount of focus I had put on asana versus everything else,
Hmm.
especially the yamas and niyamas.
Hmm.
I was at a point where I think burnt out physically anyway.
Mhm.
So it was a perfect time for me to be like, okay, live the yoga away from the mat so that you can
Yes.
understand it fully for yourself. Because I actually was going to ask you that. You kind of mentioned that you decided to take your YTT for your own reasons, your own needs,
Mhm,
to want to learn how to do this thing for yourself. And
mhm.
I ironically just had this conversation with another guest with for the same things, is that
Yes.
they took their YTT to learn how to, use yoga for themselves so much more.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad that the two of you are here now within one season, practically back to back, I think, so that folks will be able to see that this is something that you can dive into without having to have the goal of teaching, because you
Oh, yeah.
come in with it at an advantage now, because you came into this program wanting to learn more of it for your own embodiment. And being able to embody the practice makes you such an effective teacher.
Well, you know what? That's so nice that you say that, and it's interesting. One of my teachers, yeah, I had no intention to teach. And one of my teachers that, when she found out, she said, "You'll be a great teacher because you take so many classes. You have a really strong practice." And I didn't know what she
Mhm.
meant then, but I know what she means now. And when I teach, I feel like I'm a little bit of all of my teachers. Like I don't have an original thought on my own.
No,
Like
same.
I can hear all of my teachers. It's like I take all the best of all of my teachers. And then, some of, you do come out as your own. But I can hear that
Yeah.
in me. And like I said, I had no intention to teach. But then after I finished my training, my soror, and she turned out to be a mentor, she said, "I want you to get that certification from Veterans Yoga Project. So if I need a sub, you can substitute for me." And I said, "Sure, I'll take another, certification." And I started teaching the next month. They knew me because I had practiced there for every days for like 2 years.
Mhm.
They knew me. The woman who was in charge of the online studio. I didn't know she was in charge of the online studio. One of my favorite teachers, someone that I had a lot of
See?
experience. So I was like on like that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So how things work out. But this
Yes.
advice to people too, like how do you get a job teaching after you get certification? The first place to
Be
start is
in these
where you go have your
places.
practice.
Yes.
Right? That's
Be in these spaces, get comfortable and familiar with all of these people around, build that community, because then you become a part of it and then are invited to share with it generally.
and
Like,
it was just perfect for me and a blessing for me. And so going from someone who was on the mat bawling, crying, literally pulling her hair out in a rash, just inconsolable, to teaching for the same organization that got you through, you know, all that is a
mhm.
blessing for me to to have that as part of giving back and serving and, and knowing that community. I am that veteran's wife. I was that active duty person's wife. I was that veteran's daughter. So
Yeah.
that community. I knew that community, the stress that comes along with being a military spouse,
Mhm.
or so that's been a success for me as well. Finding so that just feels so natural. It wasn't weird, like going out and like, oh, who am I even teaching, or who am I working with? Like you're already familiar with the community. I was already embedded from the
Yeah.
community, and it's fun to go from being on one side of the mat to the other when you're see people that you're usually taking classes with on the. And I'm usually
Yes.
off camera. I'm one of the students. I love online yoga, and I'm one of those students that's
Me
usually off
too.
camera in my pajamas. When class,
Exactly.
I love it. I'm like, who gets dressed for a yoga class? Home.
Mm-mm.
At 7 in the morning. I'm like, who does that? I was like,
No.
unless you're the teacher. So, so I love
It's like
that.
I'll make myself decent enough if I'm gonna have the camera on, but if I'm not gonna have that camera on,
Or you could do the quick,
mm-mm.
hello or goodbye at the end of the class. But
Yeah.
when you're just like from here,
Keep it at the shoulder height. Yeah. Chest to shoulders.
so they know you're there. You like you can say hi. But otherwise, I'm off camera. I love that. I invite. Um, I don't even have to say I invite, but I know when I work with private clients, I say it's up to them because I primarily work with yoga for grief. Because as as I say, I did everything for special, selfish reasons. But all of the modalities, I learned them because they were helping me heal and helping me deal with what I saw as a catastrophic event. The death of my 95-year-old father. I like to say the king is dead. We lost our king. It's inevitable, but it doesn't soften the blow. Grief
Not
was,
at all. Not
grief
at
can
all.
be overwhelming. We know it's inevitable. Um, but it was to the point where I had to get a handle on it. So when I work with clients for that, they never have their camera on. And I tell
Yeah.
them, you definitely don't have to have your camera on, your mic on either. Just if I ask you a question and you want to tell me something, because I'm thinking, you come clean, you hold this space, you're feeling good that day, but I know what it's like to be on the mat going through that with somebody doing that work. So, I mean, they could be bursting out crying at any time or cry just before they
Right.
came on. You don't know when those tears and those emotions are going to come out. So, you make sure you give cues like this, when you're doing heart openers and chest openers and hip openers, how to make yourself feel protected, to prepare people that this might happen. Because that's where it never came up to me. And I've never been. Has this happened to you? Never been in a class or led a class where I've seen someone either be triggered or have an emotional release.
I have. Yeah. It's something that I kind of prepared myself for mentally until it happened because I, like you, had that experience of I'm on my mat bawling my face off. I'm not even sure why, but clearly I needed to release something, so I'm letting it fly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so trying my best to let the silent tears roll down into my ear.
Mm-hmm.
But noticing when someone's, kind of wiping an eye real quick, and
Mm-hmm.
I might just, put a hand on their shoulder just to let them know I see you. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that you're going through something. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for you. Let me know if you do need
Mm-hmm.
me for anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I try to give them their space when that happens
Mm-hmm.
because folks
That's
don't always want to be crowded or have, attention drawn to them in that moment. So I'll just clock it and be like, okay, I see that. We'll talk after class. Just so that I can, check in on them, make sure that they're okay, because I don't want them going home still holding on to anything,
mm-hmm.
but being able to know that they do have someone that they can talk to should they need to. But I always give that disclaimer. I'm not trained in, any
I was going to
psychological
say, I don't
medical
even want to
things.
go that far. I'm not,
Like I'm just
no.
letting you know, as a friend and someone that you have, entrusted to, guide you through this practice. I am here for you for support if you need it. But if there's something that I can't help you with, I'm gonna have to guide you to someone that can better help you. But I'm here for, moral support, if more or less.
Absolutely. Human to
Yeah,
human supportiveness
exactly.
is, I'm
Exactly.
just happy to see you.
Empathizing.
Yeah. Because I
Yes,
definitely have
because
two
been there.
grief. Oh, yeah. And like I say, I stay in my lane. I do grief. Um, I don't even want to call it grief recovery because that's a trademark name and a special type of training. But, you know,
Hmm.
yoga for grief work-ins.
Maybe
And I say,
processing. Yeah.
well, I call it work-ins because the work is from within and it's not just yoga classes. It's a modality and I move
Yeah.
you through a 12-week thing, and it's like I say, it's like tried and true what worked with me. But I stay in my lane. I have two grief recovery specialists who, trained in that I can refer people to if they need that. I'm there for the physical, I'm there for the mindfulness, I'm there for the breathing. I'm there for the meditation. I'm there for the journaling. I'm there for opening up your body. I'm there for holding space for you. I'm there for making you the number one priority of your life for 12 weeks, right? That you're going to
Yeah.
commit to 12 weeks of at least 1 hour a week where I'm going to say it's okay if I'm grieving because I know I still have to work. I know I still have to be a mother. I know I still have to be a wife.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still
Yeah.
on deadline from this project. I still have to do this for school. Wherever it is that it's okay if I have 1 hour where all I think about is how bad I feel or how much I miss this person or, just to get through that and see what else comes up. And then, give people, once, you learn about, okay, I can breathe, give someone what you have, that resource. They always go back to that place on the Mississippi
Mm-hmm.
River with their dog, that can be so much for them, because you could
Yes.
go there while you're standing in the grocery store line or in traffic when sometimes those emotions and things rise up when
Mm-hmm.
you're grieving or doing whatever. So that's one thing about it. So, and it's no guarantees that, yeah, after 12 weeks, you're not going to grieve. You love this person for a lifetime or
Yeah.
whatever. You're going to always have that, but you're going to stop pulling, hopefully, your hair out like me or
Yeah.
rash, or you've moved on to another type of intervention or um, modality that might work better for you. But I don't know. I had no idea um, that yoga was going to become so important to me for, and that it was going to be like such a, like, do happy people take yoga? Like, do you start off happy and come to yoga? Like, do happy people take yoga and become
I
happy? What I mean? It's like,
honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, have any of us been like already just like, I am in the most content place of my life? Let me start
let me
yoga.
start yoga. I know. Um, I do know this one young lady that is teaching yoga. She uh, from the Bay Area. She said she's the daughter of a single mom,
Mhm.
and she decided that academics was going to get her out of her not so good neighborhood and change the trajectory of her life. And so,
Yeah.
even in junior high school and maybe high school, she won some scholarship. I want to say for a boarding school. She said it was kind of like this
Ooh.
hippie place, but she said, like mindfulness and breathing were part of the tools that they taught you there. And I was like, isn't that
Yeah.
fantastic? I was like, if every junior high school or high schooler learn those type of
God.
tools. And then from there it led to yoga and all of that. So she's a rare person, but it started so early
She's
before
probably
life
so
had beat
much
her
more
down.
well adjusted.
Yeah.
She can
Yeah.
handle anything.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. She's got the most beautiful skin and positive attitude. I'm crediting it all to yoga, right? But just the thing to have those kind of skills, because I didn't have those kind of skills at that age to know. I was athletic, but wasn't necessarily mindful or thinking. I had physical activity in my life, but I wasn't thinking that, oh, if I get upset, I can breathe through this. No.
Yeah.
Um, So that's a wonderful skill to have. But no, I'm sure there's some people that come to yoga because a friend is like, oh, come with me to a yoga class or whatever. But it is a fantastic, uh, I want to say, non scary thing to try when you're stressed or something. I don't know. I don't know what's, well, I guess if I was going to compare it to medicine or medication, like
Yeah.
running to the doctor, like and they put you on medication. I'd rather someone try mindfulness and breathing. And that's another
Right.
thing from yoga nidra. It's been scientifically proven that 4 hours of yoga nidra can equate to I don't know how many hours of actual sleep. But that
Mm-hmm.
certain breathing can be as effective, if not more effective, breathing techniques is lowering blood pressure and reducing stress as some medications. I wish more people knew that, especially in our community.
Yes.
That with just some breathing techniques, we could take our stress levels way down. And that's one thing that I have to remember when I'm off the mat. I'm good for doing my 15 minutes of breathing breath work and meditation at the beginning of my class. I'm like you, I love I like a 15-minute Shivananda if I can. Like I like 15 of breath work in the beginning, because then when I'm sequencing the class, I'm like, I really only need 30 minutes. Because I have what,
Yeah.
15 minutes of breath work and meditation in the beginning. The mindful movement would be 30 minutes. And then 15 minutes of the guided rest. So I said that's really only 30 minutes of
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes like you end up like 10 minutes minimum, like you say, or 8 minutes minimum, because I hate it when I can only give 5 because I've gone over. That's the other thing, right? Like non-stealing.
Mm-hmm.
That's on my list. Like I won't be late. Drives my husband crazy. He's like, I'm not always chronically late, like he says, but I will. But I know what he means. So like, I hate if my class is 1 minute over or starts 1
Yeah.
minute late. I shouldn't say hate,
Yeah. But
but you know what I mean.
it's bothersome. Yeah.
Mhm. I think,
Definitely.
mhm.
It's something that agitates me because I want to honor people's time. You came here, you essentially signed a contract to come here for, this 60 minutes of whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing today. And I need to make sure that I honor that, because you have a life to live too. So
Yeah,
go do the things that you need to do, be well, prosper, take the things that you learned today and apply them out there. But I'm not going to try to, hold on to your time like that.
no,
Yeah.
and I know I used to be not used to be, but I'm acutely aware now when I go to a yoga class, all-night yoga class, and it's on the hour, and the teacher's like, well, we're going to wait a few minutes because more people signed in. That drives me crazy. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Maybe think that, but please do not say that. You're like, I'm here. They know it started. You're waiting for,
Right.
they'll be okay. I'm like, just mute it. And that was one of those painful early days of online yoga where you could hear the ding dong every time somebody came.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, until people figured out,
Yeah. Once we learned how to turn that off, that was a game changer.
ooh, that's everything.
Oh
Everything.
my goodness.
Yes.
Like we just had to do was it like a door? It sounds like a doorbell. Like, or some type of chime or something.
Fine.
Like, we don't need an announcement every time somebody comes in. The only time I could think of that is, like, for instance, if you are the only person facilitating the space, you may need to know if somebody's hopped in when you've already started instructing. But that's where
The
that whole
whole
waiting
class
room
has
thing
to.
gets weird, and it's just like, I don't know. There's so many kinks to work out when it comes to that, but oh
And
man,
I can
yeah, that
also,
honoring people's time thing is big.
that honor people's time thing is big. And especially, I think, when they're online, because a lot of people um, schedule things narrowly when they're working from home. They got to get
Yeah,
off right exactly, because then they got something right exactly at the next
that
hour.
part.
It's not like they're getting dressed,
Yeah.
changing clothes, go to the gym and go back. Because I know I'm like that. I got class, and then boom, something starts right exactly. So that's the other thing. I've had to leave
Back
in
to
the
back.
middle of Shivananda sometimes, and I always put a little note. That's another good thing about online. You're not disturbing the whole room if you have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just going to do a pro and
Can
cons of like
easily mute
online,
yourself and let it go.
and yeah. If I'm going to do the pros and cons between teaching in person and teaching online, I personally love the online. I love in person too, but I'm not. Uh, what's the word? Not bitter, but some people, was so glad to go back into in person. I wasn't one of those rushing to go back to in person classes. Let's put it like that.
I didn't I didn't want to either, because once everything closed, that March,
Hmm.
I started working at a studio that opened its doors in August of that same year, 2020. And I was just like, this is insanity.
Mm,
Like it just felt so like everyone was nervous
mm,
and it was just like really hard to, facilitate a good space and make sure that
mm,
everybody's staying safe
mm.
through all of these moments where COVID was still spiking.
I
Like we
know.
opened these doors to places, but COVID was still spiking. So you got the instructors nervous, you've got the the participants nervous, and
Mhm.
everyone's like, "Are you 6 feet away? I don't know. Like, can I wear my
Yeah.
mask while I'm on my mat? Should I wear my mask?" Well, and it's just it was so much. It was a surprise that we were able to facilitate classes that people actually got something from. But oh my goodness, I am so grateful for virtual.
Well, it was one of those weird, what is it, ironies too. It was a time where people needed yoga
Yeah,
and needed
big
community,
time.
and then, but like you said, getting it together was stressful. And then how do we do it? But yeah, virtual was a lifesaver. It was a game changer. It was a learning curve and
Hmm.
made it accessible to so many people that wouldn't have had it. I'm grateful for it. I'm glad it hasn't gone away, that it
Yeah.
wasn't. I do know some places that were offering it that are not offering it um, anymore, like some uh, city government recreation
Okay.
services.
Yeah.
When they had closed the in-person facilities, they were doing it
Hmm.
online. They're not doing it online anymore once they opened up the in-person. And that was a shame but that's not true because they still have something like line dancing. I can still get my mother online for line dancing. They have some senior things, but they have a senior
Okay.
yoga class. I know they had a senior yoga class that's not happening anymore, which is a shame, but I
Hmm.
think they still have a senior meditation class. So they went from having such a wide variety of programs
Hmm.
to now maybe having only two that would interest me, like I say, or my loved ones. So I should still be grateful for that because maybe not a lot of there not be a lot of opportunities for that in some places. But I know I think the public library was doing like something like it really got people creative.
Oh
And
yeah.
oh, you know what? I get something. I don't know how I got on the mailing list, but Berkeley University in
Hmm.
California. Oh, I think I know a teacher that teaches Zoom, not Zoom. And I was going to say Zumba, but it's not Zumba. It's called Bali X. Have you heard of Bali X?
No.
It is a dance, dance exercise based on Bollywood dancing. You know Bollywood, the Bollywood
Oh
movies.
yeah. Now you're saying that
But yeah, but
that
they
makes
call it
sense.
Bali
Yeah.
X. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she teaches it in
Okay.
Berkeley in person. And she was doing it on Zoom. Yeah. I don't know how I found out about her. I found out about a lot of stuff during the pandemic. I
I mean, there
researched.
was just so much available, and we were all just chronically online because that was one of the only things you could really do.
It,
So it opened us up to be able to see so many different people providing so many different things.
it was a lot
Like,
out there. How did you shift to online?
Um, I shifted through a couple of the spaces I was working for. Because one of them was technically a gym, but they did offer group classes for group fitness, yoga, and a couple other things. But the classes that they were able to transition to virtual, they allowed us to either record from our homes or just that one person that needed to teach at that time go into the gym so that they could use the facilities there and the equipment there. And I think they kept it kind of hybrid for a moment, but I ended up not working there much longer after that. But for my own personal, I did open up a Patreon and offered out the ability to join in my I think it was three or four classes a week that I was holding
Mhm,
for friends, family, and any other students that I had already, taught previously that wanted to still practice even though all the spaces were closed.
mhm.
And it was a fun time that like I kept that up for several months.
Oh,
Like it
yeah.
was nice to be able to still have that and be able to connect with the people that I had already, established community with. And I miss it. And like, so I'm trying to figure out when to throw it into my schedule now so I can get back into it, because I really do miss being able to be with those folks in that
With
way.
yeah, if you have real community, um, that's definitely something that I know that you want to preserve. And I'm just going to pick your brain for a second. When you say Patreon, I know that's a platform where people can pay you to access
Yeah.
content. Were you doing the classes live, or they were accessing the videos?
So both. I would film the class while it was live, on YouTube Live, so that way it was just an easy upload of the live recording right into my YouTube channel. But I'd keep it as like a unlisted, I think is what this the setting
Mhm,
is, so that way anyone that wasn't able to join in live still had access to the video later.
mhm,
But yeah, there was tiers that I had for like just live stream only, or live
mhm,
stream with archive access, and also live stream, archive, and additional bonus tutorials, and a
okay.
community chat feature too. So tried to keep it affordable too, because I knew that the situation was dire for folks, because
Well,
so
some
many
people weren't
people either
working.
lost jobs or
Mhm.
yeah, weren't working as much, and it was just a weird time for everyone. So I'm like, I understand, I'm in the same boat as you, but I'm also not in a space where I can offer this for free, so here's the affordable options that I do have. And it was fun. It was able to keep food in my belly for a little while.
Well, that's amazing because I haven't figured out how, well, I shouldn't say I haven't figured out. I'm starting to explore how to be, and I don't even want to say full time, but,
Yeah.
teach enough to make enough money for my yoga business. That's my only source of income. Let's put it like that.
It's rough, and I'm wondering if that may be a part of the question that I ask you here in a moment. But I can give my 2 cents, because that was something I did do for about 3 years. Um, but I got lucky and found a studio that I was working for that hired me on, not only as a teacher but as lead instructor, where I was essentially managing the teaching staff, the schedule, continuing education things. So there were some administrative work that I was doing too as a part-time job on top of teaching. So it helped with supplementing my income quite a bit. Um, to keep
Mhm.
me from having to burn out from teaching double digit numbers of classes a week to try to make ends meet. Um, so it's definitely challenging. It's a little bit easier, I think, to negotiate your own pricing when you're able to do these things on your own without a studio space. Um,
Mhm.
and it's really more about knowing your community and who you are trying to teach. Um, Having that's either like a sliding scale type of pay structure, or a tier structure or something, because you could add, like, set up a tier structure and ask folks, okay, how much can you afford per session or something like that, and then offer discounts per however many they want to book in advance or something like that. Those are things that you can think of that are helpful to make sure that you're still able to make your bottom line without stripping people's pockets too much, because for whatever reason in this country, yoga has become such an expense for people, when it's not. I don't want to say it's not that deep, because it is, but it's also, we live in a capitalistic society where time is literally money, and it sucks,
Yeah.
but it's something that you have to think about and be very cognizant of. So then I wanted to flip that question to you,
Mhm.
um, for those that, and especially since you're still kind of like finding your way through, like you said, wanting to get into it full time. What advice would you give to somebody that's starting out their teaching career?
Well, I got really lucky. I got certified at the end of 1 month. 2 months later was the first opportunity to take this additional certification. And that next following month, I started working for an online yoga
Nice.
studio. So that was really lucky. So my first advice would be wherever have your practices, and you have a practice there for a reason, right? You're going there either because it's one teacher or a lot of teachers, the place, it's something. If you have a
Right.
strong yoga practice, whether it's online or in person, you're going to that place for a reason. If it's an online yoga studio, so start there. I didn't even have to ask. I don't even know how that happened, but ask. Be forward and say, I love coming here. I'm just got certified. How can I, do that? And I say that like I know it would work because I know it would work because as I say, I found out I was loyal to this place and I was rewarded with that. So that's
Yeah.
something for that. But also, and this is what I'm starting to figure out, what does it mean? I have to figure out what I want this to look like for me, right? What do I
Mm-hmm.
want my yoga teacher career to look like for me? And
Right.
I learned there's a difference between a yoga teacher and a yoga instructor. A yoga instructor, I can cue out certain things, but a yoga teacher, I'm going to tell you why you're doing something, what the benefit of it is, and make sure that you're doing it properly, right? So if I want to be a yoga teacher, do I want to be an
Yes.
instructor or a teacher? Say, okay, if I want to be a teacher, what does that mean? Then it's like, well, who do I want to serve? So I figured out who I want to serve. Like, and the first thing that was clear to me, it was people grieving, like like that I was going through. And
Yeah.
now I've decided women over 50, right, who want to age well. Because at 50, we might have grandkids and older parents, sandwiched, still working,
Right.
menopause, juggling a lot of things. And again, not even taking that hour a day for yourself, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
how's that going to go down for your aging? Are you going to be on blood pressure medicine? What's that going to be like for you? So I want to that's another population that I know. Right. I know
Right.
what it's like to grieve to grieve as an adult. So that's one population that I want to serve. I know what it's like to be a woman over 50. That's another population that I want to serve because we have our health and physical challenges. And then the third population I want to serve is the people that want to let go of the shame and anger of that you're left with after sexual trauma. Right. So I've figured
That is
that
so
out. So
powerful.
well, you figure and it's like, you probably heard this or were taught this, like, teach what you know. Like, I'm not going to teach a
Mm-hmm.
Ashtanga yoga because I don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? So you teach what you know,
Right.
right? So I want to serve the people that I know with the tools that have worked for me that I know will work for them as well. I shouldn't say no that it will work because there's no guarantee with any type of modality that you're gonna um, get the results. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I know the people that I want to work with, I know
Yeah,
where
that makes
they're
sense.
and where they want to go. And I know if they do the work that they'll find relief. I guess what I want to say is that at the end, like I say, at the end of the 12 weeks with my yoga for grief work in, it's not like you're not going to grieve anymore. Or it's like, oh, you forgot about that person or the reason that you were grieving, but
Right.
you
But
can
you
live.
learned the lesson on how to go through it. Yeah.
You can live. You can be functioning. You have tools for
Exactly.
when things come up. And what we do know is that you're going to grieve again. Grieving is not something that happens to people one time.
Yeah, it's
You
part of
go through
life.
menopause once, thank God, right? But you're not going to go through a grieving period, a grieving period just one time. It's going to be, you're going to have more than one thing to grieve the longer that you live. And with the sexual
Right.
trauma, it was years before I could talk about that. I mean,
Yeah.
years before I could talk. And like I say, that was I had been raped 2 times before. And that third time, I was like, it wasn't going to happen the third time. So it was years before I could talk
Right.
about the first, second, or third incident, like, and it's hard not to talk about, well, why are you so hurt? Why'd you go out of a window? So it was years before. So how to let go of that shame and anger, and because it can affect every other relationship, intimate relationship
Oh
that
yeah.
you have, trust issues with, not even,
Mm-hmm.
romantic relationships, and, feeling safe. You have PTS after that. So,
Oh
those
yeah.
three things I know. I don't know how to cue you into like some pretzel pose, but I know how to help you work through, um, like I say, with journaling and breathing and meditation and mindful movement and gratitude and, rest in the different modalities and consistency.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Life
and
skills through yoga.
bravery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a certain amount of bravery, because a lot of times we don't, like, I couldn't talk about it for years because a lot of times you don't want to talk about it. You think if you don't. So it's
Yeah.
not like, the first day you're going to be like, oh, everything comes out. But I think
Right.
just knowing, like, I get so excited, like at the beginning of every month, or at least for 2 weeks, sometimes it's too much work. But scheduling out all the yoga classes that I'm going to take as a student, I love that. I love seeing in my calendar what I'm going to do for me, when my classes are. There's this dance class that I take, and I bought a 10 class pass called Exotic Dance Mix, and it's probably about 80% Bollywood, and seeing
Yeah.
that on my calendar makes me happy. Just knowing I have those fun little. The only thing I don't like about this class is I have to leave my house and go. I wish it was online, but that's okay because you're in the space. She loans you those belts with the the coins,
Yeah.
and so it's fun. You can have that. But I tell you, I'm to the point where, of course, I like leaving my house, but I
There's
love
something about feeling the energy of being there physically with folks.
that's fun. Being there physically with folks is fun. But there's something about doing your workout and your care stuff with the camera off in your pajamas, and you haven't brushed your teeth and your hair looks
Mm.
crazy. That's an indulgence for me right there too. It's like, woo! I didn't have,
That's
I just,
comforting. It's very comfortable. I don't know about it for you, but for me, it's comforting because
yeah,
I have ADHD struggles where everything is a task, and if I have to have so many extra steps just to do this thing that's supposed to bring me joy, then it's not necessarily joyful anymore. So
right.
being able to do my yoga at home in my underwear, just straight out of bed or something like that, ain't even brushed my teeth yet,
Yeah,
just rolling
I
around
know.
on my mat, doing what I need to do, having my meditation in my jammies. I'm able to be more present, I think.
I
For
love it.
me anyway. I'll speak for myself. Yeah.
Well, I absolutely love it. And it made me realize that a couple of weekends ago, I went to something called Yoga Games, and it was a weekend, I guess primarily aimed towards yoga teachers, but anybody who loved yoga. So one day of workshops. I didn't go through the whole thing. One day of workshops, like teacher intensive workshops, and then another 2 days of all kinds of classes. So I took some things, and you're in a room with a whole lot of people. And I remember leaving there. I already registered for next year because I remember leaving there thinking this was so wonderful to be in the space with all these people. But I can see I could do that once a year, like a 2 days once a year. It was wonderful though, but I forgot how noisy people are. Um, and
Oh
how
goodness.
quirky some people can be, and to remember to stay on your mat, stay on your mat, like don't be looking at, but it was wonderful. It is definitely a different energy. One of the sessions was like sound energy, So that. But you do feed off of other people. But I loved it so much that I hopped on that. They get you early bird register now for next year. So I did that. But I found a studio near me where I've gone to you did one of those 2-week unlimited classes. It was hot yoga. Hot yoga has changed a lot in my day. Have you done it? Like this place had
Yeah.
it looked like a dry source of heat. I don't know what. The first time I did it, I thought it was so hot that I could hardly breathe. I don't know what that was. It was that place. It
I
was.
wouldn't be surprised if it was the one named after the dude that I don't want to say his name because I don't like giving him
Don't
any
say it.
attention, but
No,
most
don't
of
say
us
it.
know who we're talking about. But yeah, the originator of what they call it now, the Hot 26 or something like that.
It wasn't him, and I don't
Yeah.
know that, and I heard of that, and I'm not even really sure what that is. But this was in Sweden, and I'm trying to think. I don't know if it was because it was really cold outside. It seemed hot, but I did it again in Sweden, and I could see it almost looked like humidifiers that were putting off the heat. It was like seemed like a different heat source, like a drier
Oh,
heat, and that
wow.
was a different experience. And I did that, but I don't know if I even like that for every time I have a practice that I'm in that type of environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I find it but see, that's the thing about, well, I guess it's the same about an online practice. I was going to say finding a place that you like, that you just
Yeah.
feel like ticks everything. Um, and now to be able to do that, like I say, you don't have to roll up, you're not driving in, and yeah, I'm really grateful
Yeah.
for online practice. It's one of my, I still say pandemic blessings that, and we're still like the pandemic's changed the way we do so many things. I'm so grateful that the yoga, um, I don't want to say is it a yoga, is yoga an industry, but that yoga instructors understand the value of online yoga for their students, how it makes it more
Yeah.
accessible for them. Yeah, more accessible for them, how it makes it, how it's been like it lets you have your practice uninterrupted. Let me put it like that. Because even if you're traveling and you can't go to your regular place or something happens, you can get on an online
Yeah.
class.
That's I'm glad you said that. Thank you for sharing that because I've always felt with physical spaces that where you're hosting yoga, you're having to accommodate the environment that people are coming from into the class space, so that way you're creating a space where they can release it, but still having to be mindful of the fact that there are things that they just experienced outside those doors that they're likely bringing in with them, along with other baggage that they're carrying and don't even realize it. So they're loaded down. Does your space allow them to be able to release that? Is your class formulated in a way that they can work through anything they need to work through safely and be able to leave this space, go back into all that stuff and still, lead a fulfilling life? It's a
That makes
lot.
me
It is
think,
definitely a lot.
it is, and I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it makes me wonder, do you have like a pre and post class ritual for either your space or your
Oh,
setting?
yeah.
You do. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I always like to come to class at least 30 minutes before it's supposed to start so I can make sure that I have everything that I need for myself so that I can not have to worry about it while I'm teaching. I also like to set a mood or a tone or an intention into the space. So that way, once they come in, all they have to do is leave whatever they want to at the door, so that way when they get to their mat, all they're worrying about is themselves in that moment. um if I'm allowed to bring some things in, I would always love to bring in like the smell goods of like some essential oils or some incense, but fire codes aren't always okay with those types of things. But it's definitely some things I like to do. And just to prepare myself, I'm one of those that likes to be upside down more than right side up. So I will put myself into an inversion or some type of inverted position for a little bit to clear my own mind. And then I'm ready to go. And then I'll do the same thing to end the classes, leave it the way I found it, cleanliness wise. And I'll do a few more inversions to clear myself of anything and go on about my day. So, yeah. What do you do?
Well, listen to you, I'm like, I don't do anything. No, I meditate before, but I'm finding I don't really do anything after because it seems like I'm hopping right to the next thing, whether
The
even
next
if it's a
thing.
meal
Yeah.
or something. And so you're making me think about that I still can have a few minutes. I need to change my schedule, even if
Oh,
I have
yeah.
buffer time or something in there. Because when you are teaching online, you have to demo, right? So I could be hungry after, depending
Mm-hmm.
on a class. But I'm trying to think, even when I do meditate, one day, there's one day I have a meditation and then I go straight into either a nidra or a yin. But then after that, then I'm usually hungry. Yeah, it's food. I usually roll straight into food or
Yeah.
something. I'm usually hungry. Um, so I'm not
I'm
very.
the same. As soon as I can get my hands on some food.
I'm like, why? Not? Because because what I
It's
do,
so draining. You need to
I
refuel.
need to
Yes.
refuel. But
It's
I
a
have,
lot. But I think even something as simple as washing your hands can be a
yeah,
good practice
you're
because
right.
it's that symbolically cleansing away anything that may have attached itself to you. Not just, germ wise or anything. Cause I'm not sure, if you're, much of a
No, I
hands on
know what you
assist type of
mean.
a, teacher.
And I guess,
Yeah.
no,
But
I
just,
know what you
cleansing the
mean.
hands to just release anything that might still be trying to attach. Yeah.
And I unwittingly do that because I'm gonna wash my hands before I eat. But I'm not doing it intentionally. So I can at least do that and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm intentionally washing,
Yeah, that's part of your
that
ritual.
yeah,
Yeah,
since I go. So thank you for working me through that because I do know that that's
of
important to have.
course.
Help. Yeah, no, but as teachers to keep our container clean. And if you're like me, you absorb stuff
Yes,
from people. That's another reason I like
all the
online
time.
too, though.
All the time.
But that's another
Yep.
reason I
That's
like
why I wear the
online.
crystals and
Yeah,
the things and the rings. Like, I need to just keep my stuff, and you keep your stuff, because
so
I already have enough going on my plate, and I know that you've got a full plate too. There's no room on mine. I don't want it for myself from you. So I'm going to keep it here. Because,
that's definitely. But I
like,
think that's another reason that I like online because it does. If the person has their camera off, that's protecting for them and
yes,
for
they
me.
can
They're setting the
exactly
boundary,
setting their
and
own
I
boundary.
and I
Hmm.
accept those. I never say come off camera or let me just see you say
Oh,
no.
never.
I never. Never, never, never.
Yeah.
And I don't even have to hear your voice.
No.
I'm just like chat. I just say if
Right.
you cannot hear or
Exactly.
see
Put
it,
it in the chat or
then I
like
sit
send, what do
there.
they have? Like reactions now?
Yeah, and I sit there and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Little
okay,
emojis
you
that you can
haven't said
send.
anything. Yeah, that's true. The little emojis you can do because I like being hands off as much as possible. But we want it. It's that
Yes.
balance where you want to be available. I don't want to be that chatty yoga teacher. And I have some of the teachers that are chatty, chatty, chatty. 15 minutes before class with
Tell
the
you
whole
a whole story about something. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Some days, I'm not in for that. Some days I don't mind just listening in the background, and then some days, but I don't know. I'm the type of, I don't start that, and so I don't know. I guess that's
Yeah.
okay. I kind of have like a little banter during class. It can be, but I know that if you're like me,
Oh, of
sometimes you come to
course.
class 10 minutes. You want quiet. You want to get in there and just get there and lay down
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm. And you can tell with those students that want that too. Like it's not hard to pick up on that and perceive that.
Mhm.
So once I notice, I'm like, you want some chill time. You came here to relax and get away from whatever it is you're escaping. So I'm not gonna bother you.
I know.
But
I
I
love
will. The only thing I'll do is just check in. Is like, do you have anything that I need to be aware of physically today, so that I can understand what modifications to provide for you or anything like that. But
yeah.
once I noticed, I'm like, they gave me their little spiel. Great, have back at it. Go right ahead. Proceed.
You
Like,
see,
I
girl,
won't bother you until it's time to start class. Ah,
yeah. So I feel so lucky to be part of the yoga community, part of the Black yoga community. I, you know, um, well, when I say Black yoga community, you put me in the family because you said y'all in the family now. You in the yoga and Black family. But my mentor, she did say, join the Black Yoga
I
Teachers
like to consider
Association.
it that. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I need my Black yoga family, especially
Hmm.
being all the way over there in Sweden. That helps. And
Yeah.
um, I just, yeah, because yoga, and you know what? I took this yoga class and it's with Berkeley University, and this sister, I didn't get her name, but she led this class, and she had us doing this pose, and she said the African god name. And I was like, all right, sister. Um, I'm trying to think if I can show you what was the pose that she had us doing. It was, what were we doing? We were, okay, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, um, like the base would be kind of like, um, a little bit like a warrior two base or a period base. But like if
Hmm.
you go to the triangle where we had our arms up, we did something. And she said some Egyptian king or queen's name. And I love how she incorporated that into the practice. And that was the only thing that was, do you know what I'm talking about? There's an
You're
Afrocentric
talking about comedic
one.
yoga. Like as soon
So
as
she
you put
was
your arms up like that, I'm like, oh, you were doing comedic yoga. Yeah.
okay, so thank you for the name of that because I was like, I want more of that. And she incorporated that into the class. Like I said, we were online. She was teaching it for Berkeley. She had her
Hmm.
hair wrapped. She was gorgeous. She did it. I was like, oh, fucking right. I was like, I wish I could see who else
Oh yeah.
was in the call.
She gave y'all a little sprinkling. Yes, I like that. She snuck it in there. I like that.
I love that. And I was like,
Yes.
I wish I knew what she was doing because I don't know how to do it again. I'm so glad you said that. That's something that I can
Yes, comedic
explore.
yoga.
Okay, is that
Or what is
okay?
it? I can't remember the official name of it. Swy tie?
I don't know, but I can start
Oh, I
looking.
can't remember now. It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't quite get it there. But yeah, it's a practice that's starting to pick up a lot more steam, and more people are becoming more aware of it because, um, though I will never discredit anything that I've ever learned about the Indian lineage of yoga, understanding that those areas are all very close together geographically wise, knowing how old those civilizations are, there it's very likely that all of it also permeated into Africa too, and they had their own types there. So the fact that more people are getting hip to it makes me happy, and hopefully will bring more of us to it because it is ours too.
I
So
know.
it's not just something that's of, the South Indian descent. It is, or not South Indian, South Asian descent, but African too. So again, it's part of this whole thing. So unfortunately, we are at the end of our time today, and I'm so heartbroken because I just want us to keep going. I want us to keep going so bad. But I can't thank you enough for everything that you have shared today and being so open and honest and vulnerable. Your story resonates with me, with some of the experiences that you've had. So I can't thank you enough for being here to share that with us, and know that you have the grief practices available because I wish I had known that something like that existed when I was going through those things. So I will definitely be shouting your names at the rooftops because we need stuff like that so bad, because so many of us are grieving through so many things that we're not even fully aware of. So thank you for being you, and thank you for shining as brightly as you do. What's your social media handles for the folks to know?
Thank you for this spark in my day. At Always Home Yoga, Facebook page and Instagram. And I haven't touched Twitter since it changed to whatever. Are you still on Twitter? But that's it. Instagram. I'm trying to Instagram and Facebook. I have to go back and listen to some of your episodes about social media. That's a whole nother world. But Instagram and Facebook, and I have a website.
Nice.
AlwaysHomeYoga.com. Thanks for making me part of the family.
Awesome.
Thanks, fam.
Well, thank you for accepting the invite. I truly, truly appreciate you. So, folks, I hope you got your life today on this episode, because I definitely did. I will see you next week for another fabulous episode. Please enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Get some meditation in. Get some food in. I love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Yoga in Black podcast. What did you think of this episode? Leave us a comment or a rating on whichever platform you're listening or watching from today, right after you subscribe. Be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at yoga.inblack, Facebook yoga-in-black, and TikTok yoga.in.black. Also, head to www.yogainblack.net for all your YIB needs. Next episode, I'll connect with Crystal Williams Payne. New episodes air every Tuesday. And if you'd like to be on the show, fill out our waitlist form on the website. Be sure to click on Let's Talk from the menu. I can't thank you enough for all of your support. Really, this could not be done without you. Thanks for listening.